And we start right now at 6 o'clock with a verdict in the Delphi murders case. Richard Allen guilty on all charges in the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. You watched that verdict happen live here just a couple of hours ago on Wish TV and Wish TV's app. Let's get you right to our team coverage tonight. We first start with IT-Mate's Kyla Russell, who's been reporting on this case since the very beginning of the trial. Kyla.
I was about 6 feet from Richard Allen as that verdict came down. He showed little to no reaction, but his wife and his mom certainly did. They cried as each count was read out, guilty. Of course, that comes as a surprise to them, but not to many others.
Not surprised at all based on the mountain of evidence we heard against Richard Allen.
That evidence led the jury of 12 to find Richard Allen guilty of killing Abby Williams and Libby German near the Monon High Bridge on February 13th, 2017. As each count was read, followed by a resounding guilty, the families of Abby and Libby sighed, holding hands. Libby German's grandmother and Abby Williams' mom embraced, words they've waited to hear for nearly 8 years.
I imagine there's a certain sense of relief, but still sadness because nothing can bring these girls back after their horrific things that were done to them.
The jury deliberated for about 19 hours in a 21-day trial, one of the most high profile in the history of the state. They considered a mass amount of evidence. 64 people testified and 378 pieces of evidence were admitted. The evidence included a series of confessions where Allen admitted to killing the girls, confessions the defense called the result of psychosis from being held in solitary confinement after his arrest. They all had to agree. The judge asked each one of them if they agreed to a guilty verdict. Each one said yes.
Sitting in that courtroom and listening to the prosecution methodically stack the bits of evidence against Richard Allen one by one until the stack became so very high it just seemed insurmountable.
The jury was immediately taken back to their hotel in Lafayette, where they've been sequestered for nearly a month. The judge has kept a gag order in place. That means the family cannot speak to media. I watched as defense attorney Jennifer Auger comforted Kathy Allen, Richard Allen's wife, and said this is far from over. He'll be sentenced December 20th at 9 a.m.
Kyla, what was the attorney's reaction to the verdict?
Yeah, so I saw Nick McClelland, one of the prosecutors, and he kind of sighed in relief. And then as for the defense, I saw as Brad Rosie, he was very restless before that verdict came down. And as soon as that first guilty was read, he kind of tightened up and looked straight at Frances Gull as she read those many counts.
Kyla Russell has been all over the case for us throughout the entire trial outside the Carroll County Courthouse tonight on a very busy night. Kyla, thank you so much. We continue our team coverage now with IT-Mate's Cody Fisher. He's monitoring the emotions outside of the courthouse after that hearing of the guilty verdict was taking place. What's it like out there now, Cody?
Phil, it is completely calm compared to just a couple of hours ago when this sidewalk outside of the Carroll County Courthouse was packed with people who were anxiously awaiting this verdict. That was the scene outside the courthouse as Wish TV reporter Kyla Russell told the crowd that the jury found Richard Allen guilty. With the verdict sinking in, people who live in Delphi tell us they're relieved.
I just had a positive feeling that God was going to guide them in what direction they needed to go in.
Because God was in this courtroom this morning with that jury. They couldn't make a harder decision.
Not everyone outside the courthouse wanted this verdict. Despite that, we did not see any arguments over how things panned out. Now, the people of Delphi just want peace and healing.
I could hope for nothing more than to see this town come back to one again.
I think they protected this county, and now this county needs to heal.
The next stage in the healing process will be on December 20th when Richard Allen will be back here in court for his sentencing hearing. Phil?
And Cody, you reported earlier that the crowd seemed to be split on whether or not Richard Allen was guilty or innocent. Were you surprised by the cheering for the verdict?
I wanted to say I wasn't surprised by the cheering, but what I was surprised at was how civil people who thought it was going to be a not guilty verdict were. There was no booing, there was no animosity towards the other side, so that was the more surprising thing. But I think if it had been the other way, there would have been cheering as well. Just it was the people who got the verdict that they wanted.
Right. Cody, one last question. You've been at the courthouse throughout the deliberations. How did the mood change from Thursday to today?
Thursday, it seemed to be a lot of anxiousness. People who were eventually got the guilty verdict they wanted were excited because there was a sense that if a verdict came down quickly, then it would have been a guilty verdict. But it kind of ebbed and flowed as we went into Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday. The mood and the vibe around the courthouse became much more anxious because the thought, at least at the time, was that the longer it took for things to pan out, the more likelihood that it would be not guilty or a hung jury. So that's why there was that big sigh of relief from people as Kyla came out and told the crowd that there was guilty on all 4 counts, is because everybody that was anxiously awaiting that guilty verdict was finally able to breathe that sigh of relief because they got the verdict they wanted.
All right, Cody, thank you very much. Let's bring in Mario Masalamani now. You may recognize him as a member of our All Indiana Politics team, but he's also a noted criminal defense attorney and joins us now to talk about the case. Mario, you were with us when this news first broke this afternoon. What's your analysis now this evening?
You know, again, a lot of people have been talking about how long the jury took to deliberate and asking, is 17 hours, 18 hours, is that too long? People have to realize that this is a case that had a lot of evidence, a lot of testimony from both sides. This is a case that, I truly believe the jury took their time in deciding this verdict. It wasn't something quick. It wasn't something that they didn't take their job seriously. I think that it was important for them to review all the evidence. And even on the first full day, the judge had kind of indicated that the jury was going through all of the evidence, wanting to go through all the exhibits, go through all the testimony, truly before making a decision. The fact that this jury took so long is another indication that, both sides did a really good job of presenting their cases. And it did make the jury have to think before just finding him guilty, that, the defense put on a good case, and so did the prosecutor.
Mario, in your professional opinion, what was it that made the jury come to this conclusion?
The main thing that got the jury, I believe, to find Richard Allen guilty is his confessions. I know that Brad Rosie was making a passionate argument, the fact that he had been in solitary confinement for 8 months, that he started having psychosis, that he really wasn't aware or understanding what he was saying. He had, I guess, made allegations that he had molested his daughter, his sister. Those were, by even the daughter and sister, said that never happened. And so, the defense tried to give the jury something as it pertains to those confessions, as to a reason why he would make those confessions other than truly being guilty. But I don't believe that the jury bought that. Hearing from the defendant's own words that he killed those 2 girls, there is nothing more solid than that, other than DNA or fingerprint evidence. And, you can tell that the prosecutor hammered on that fact during closing, and also brought that up multiple times throughout the trial, making sure the jury truly understood this defendant, Richard Allen, from his own words, is admitting to this case, to committing these 4 counts. And that's why you should find him guilty, along with all the other facts and, testimony.
Are you surprised, Mario, that the gag order remains in place? And also, what happens next in this?
I'm a little surprised, but to be honest with you, with the type of media coverage, the type of interest, this is not something that is just solely interesting in the state of Indiana. But if you look around, this is being covered nationally. CNN, USA Today, multiple other networks are covering this case because of the type of case it is. The fact that it took almost 8 years to bring, these 2 girls, killer, to justice. The fact that they didn't even find this defendant for 5 years. So this has drawn a lot of attention. I believe that this judge is trying to keep this record as clean as possible. She understands that this case is going to be appealed. I think that she wants to try and continue on with the gag order. She doesn't want the family or any other witnesses from both sides talking to the media, which then at sentencing can be potentially, stated in some shape or form in a different manner. So I think that it's smart on her part to continue on with the gag order, at least till after sentencing. As you asked, what is the next step? What is going to happen next? Well, the judge has determined that December 20th is going to be the sentencing date. So what happens between now and the 20th? There is a thing called a pre-sentence investigation, a PSI. And that's pretty well known in criminal defense and throughout our judicial system, where once the person is found guilty, then the court, especially on felony cases, will ask the probation office to conduct what's called a pre-sentence investigation. When the probation office compiles this information, they're providing the judge information as to who Richard Allen is. They will have information about his education, his social upbringing, his family status, if he has any other criminal cases or any other criminal convictions. There's a whole number of factors that are taken into consideration, and the probation office will make a recommendation to the judge. In a case like this is going to be 30 to 50 pages of information that the judge will review prior to rendering a verdict or rendering a sentence. Right. Additionally, the state and the defense will have an opportunity to present witnesses. So on the state's behalf, they're looking at a range of up to 130 years. The prosecution is going to want 130 years. And so they will want to have testify the mothers of the two girls, other family members, potentially pastors, other individuals that were impacted by this heinous murders. And then the defense, they will want to try and present evidence such as the wife of the defendant, Richard Allen, his daughter, other family members, because they're going to want to show him in the best light possible and try to get the lowest level of sentence possible and try to potentially get a split sentence where they know he's going to get, jail time, but maybe ask for probation, ask for community corrections, such as an ankle bracelet or work release. So they're going to try and get something more split. So that way he at least has an opportunity to get out of jail before he dies.
Okay, well, Mario, thank you so much for your expert analysis throughout the trial. We'll lean on you heavily as things unfold. Thank you, sir. And here's a timeline of the case. It was February 13th, 2017, when the girls were dropped off at the Monon High Bridge Trail. Their bodies were found the next day on the 15th. Police released photos of a man now known as Bridge Guy as their main suspect. The images and audio of him saying down the hill were captured by Libby's phone. Police arrested Richard Allen in October of 2022. Allen's trial started October 14th. The jury began deliberations Thursday afternoon, and today a guilty verdict was rendered.